Welcome, restoration professionals, to Restoration Minutes, your source for industry information and education. Be sure to like and rate us if you enjoy the content we provide.
All right, welcome back in to Restoration Minutes. I've got Jim Thompson here. We've already spoken some about large loss and, how that is different for everyone in the industry. And then we were about to get into some safety issues. And because that's one of the biggest things that I feel like weaknesses are. So welcome back in, Jim.
Thank you very much, Mike. I was a fanatic at my company, coast to coast, on safety. Mainly because I'm a boss and I was never an issue Scrooge and I didn't want to spend any money. And the other thing is, I really didn't want somebody coming to work for me with 10 fingers attached and 2 eyes and leaving with 1 eye or no fingers. Or I could tell the widow that, Gene was really stupid that day. He won the Darwin Award of the year. Steve, you out of the gene pool. And when I say cost, I would rather have a crew go out and buy a $200 1/8 ladder that's needed on a job site than to stand 2 boxes on top of each other, fall off, and end up in the emergency room for 8 hours. From a boss's standpoint, if I have to send some guy to an emergency room, I got to send a crew chief with him. Now, if I'm charged for $78 an hour for that crew chief, well, I cannot charge the client for 8 hours sitting in the emergency room. I know that's getting free smoke. The guy gets thrown up, I can't charge for him being there, but he's sure on the clock, and so is my guy. And it takes about 1 hour to match what the ladder would be, let alone work off, let alone everything else. Bike, drive down Indian to Hurricane, and then instead of death body home COD. It's still about jobs done. I'm being a boss. I'm being an asshole here. But whatever they take a yellow sheet of the Greyhound bus, but send it in to the client, say I put 10% overhead and 10% profit on sending Gene's body home to you. The kids aren't going to pay COD to get it off the bus, so I'm stuck with you. So let's right, guys. Let's not get hurt. Now, by doing that, I didn't have an on-job site work comp case in 20 years. This is the first dangerous stuff one discussion together. Because we had a safety culture at the fact that the crew members would say, it would rather have you fired than hurt. Don't screw up, because I don't want to be the one to explain to Jim why you got hurt.
Yeah. And, that's the reason, I know we were talking earlier that you also highly recommend it, but one of the things I highly recommend to all the contractors I know is that, all your guys need to have their OSHA 10 that are going to be on these sites if possible. And then your supervisors need to have like their OSHA 30, their HAZWOPER, depending on what type of project that you're doing. And, if they're going in and working for any like prime contractor that's government related or that does a lot of large projects, they're going to find that those guys, require that before you step on their job sites as well. So, I really blows me away how many guys are going in and doing, big level demo, and they are setting up all these things. They're having safety meetings. They're charging for a health and safety guy. And there's not a guy on there that's got an OSHA certification at all that really knows what they're doing.
OSHA shows up, and I've been an OSHA authorized instructor for 14 years, and we look this up for the OSHA training institute. For goodness sakes, give them the courtesy at the initial meeting of saying OSHA is here. Okay?
Yep.
They're used to hearing the other pronunciation go out over the radio. OSHA was established to save workers from their own stupidity, in my opinion. Every line in 1926 for construction, every line in 1910 for general industry, 1917, 1919 for maritime is written in blood. What amazes me is OSHA is not the IRS. OSHA is there to try to make a safe environment for the employees. Now, with that being the case, and I teach the OSHA 10, the OSHA 30, the HAZWOPER, et cetera, and you ask them, why are you here? They've got to tell you. They don't just show up without a reason. And then you say, look, here is my company ultimate safety plan. Here is my job site hazard analysis. Here is my SDSs. Here's my all protection program. Here's my scaffolding protection program. Here's my finishing program. Here's my chemical program. My HAZCOM program. Sir, ma'am, what am I missing?
Yep.
Could you please help out here? Here are my OSHA 10s, here are my OSHA 30s. Now, they're not required by law. OSHA 10 and OSHA 30, general industry construction, etc., not required by law.
No.
But to your point, many contractors will not let a guy on a site without an OSHA 10. All an OSHA 10 is basically 10 hours of the basic stuff. You put a ladder on the surface. You keep your belt buckle in between the lugs. You don't climb up with something over your head. You use 3 points of contact, put it up 1 to 4. You have 3 feet above the working surface. Things that are common sense that most people don't have.
Yep.
But it also goes into how to report your employer if he's doing something wrong. Now, with my guys, I'd want them to tell me. I have a policy on my job site. Jim Thompson company, 43 states, around the clock, around the country. Anybody, including a day laborer, could shut down any of my job sites over a safety issue. I did not want them temporary to say, I don't have the authority to let anybody know, and then somebody, okay? And by that, in 27 years, I never had one temp or employee abuse that standard. You'd think to do it just for a break. Now, it might be something as simple as the grounding plug is off of an extension cord. Great. Everybody take 10.
Yep.
Johnny handle the extension cord. Back to work. And thank you, Joe, for doing that. You see? Or it might be something that scaffold is going to come down. Whoa, let's get a scaffolding engineer. Let's get something. Whoa, we don't need that. You know? And you're saying things on job site that it shouldn't be. People look at OSHA as an expense. And I look at it and say, you know, for every dollar spent on direct costs into the hospital, so on and up, et cetera, you got about $6 or $8 in trying to replace that guy. Mike, how long do you have in the restoration industry?
I've been in the restoration industry for 19 years.
Okay. How do I replace somebody working for me who's been on a job site working for 19 years? How do I replace you? I put out ads. I don't care if you've worked with XYZ franchise. It's not me. I don't care if you work with a big guy. I don't care. You see? It's going to take 2 or 3 years to train you on how I like to run my system. To say nothing of IITRC, S, blah, 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 all the training, RIA, knowing people, knowing how to do it, et cetera. It's a pain in the butt for me to have to replace a guy that's been around for a while. So it's
And
much
expensive.
to me to spend the money on getting this guy trained and then having a safety culture from the top down and the bottom up to say, let's do this the state way. You see where I'm coming from? Now, I told you before about when I first started, I had better cleaning service because my company was just clean. And I had a church with a 27-foot high ceiling peak there. And I told a redneck working for me, I want you to clean that ceiling. And he used both of his IQ points, maybe all 3 of them, to come up with a way to get up there. And as you walked into the sanctuary, you walked into the entrance of the church, there was a platform that they used to have AV, audiovisual at the time. They had a slide projector sitting on top of the platform through the wall into the sanctuary. So when the preacher went like this guy would push a button and he would go to the next slide. See?
Yeah.
But there was no toe rail, mid rail, top rail, none of this stuff here. I get there, and what do I see? I see 2 guys on this platform with a 2x10 and a diving board. They're pretty smoky though. They're standing on this diving board. I'm sorry, 2x10 counterbalance. On top of that diving board is a 6-foot step ladder. I've got one rung on this side of the board and the back brace on this side of the board, first brace. And Gene is on top of that step ladder with a chem sponge in his head trying to get that dang ceiling cleaned. Now, I look at this, I know if I yell, James, everybody's going to turn and go, what? And James going to take his hand right off down to the concrete floor and then probably go down to the heavy stairs going downstairs to the sanctuary below, the activity room below. And James going to fall 20 feet and then tumbles up. Huh. So I go up and stand on the board with him. I wish he was going to show up at the FM technical adjuster to ask her, gee, I'm on that one, boy. It's okay. We'll get it later. Don't worry. Now, King comes down. Everything's okay. Nothing happened. Why would OSHA have fined me? I didn't authorize this. I just said it. Why would OSHA have fined me for that horrendous safety violation?
Well, I know that, as the employer, you're responsible for providing your workers with a safe working environment and providing them with the tools that they need to perform that. You cannot be, and this would end up probably, whether it's a fine or getting sued is two different things, So I don't think that they would fine you just because somebody chose to do something stupid on their own accord. Now, if you noticed it as the employer and didn't stop it, then I think that would be something different. But you tell me.
Okay. Right now, I don't know what the new fines are going to be. Right now, it's like $16,565 per violation per employee. So that would have at least been 3 violations right there. Their point of view is, I did not provide supervision to stop that stupidity from happening.
That
I
makes
did not
sense.
people. And realistically, after 45 years in the industry since then, it was my fault. My job was to give the guys a safe and healthful workplace.
Yep.
Okay? Right out of the OSHA Act, Occupational Safety Act, before OSHA came about, providing a safe and healthful workplace for employees free from recognized hazards, likely to cause serious injury or death. Well, that definitely recognized hazards that could cause serious injury or death. What I should have done was get some Baker scalpels. I should have gotten a GLT lift in there. I could have gotten a scissor lift in there. I could have gotten one down to spider lift in there. I could have had some scaffolding. I could have had 2 scaffolding in the church up there. There was a way I should have designed it to say, get up there and take the king sponge and do this. You see? Now, if he didn't do that, and he came up with this whole thing on his own, I'd still be hit because I didn't have supervision to protect people from doing that. You see?
Yeah.
Now, a couple of years ago, and thank goodness they didn't push through it, tried to come up with a fine, it did not go through, whereby if an employee bypasses a known safety, that the company did not catch him doing this. For example, in piecemeal work, the guy might be working on a factory machine. Every time it goes to clunk, he makes $4, $4, $4, $4. Guard's got to come up. He takes piece out, goes down to the point of work, boom. You see? $4. Some guy gets smart and says, I'm going to put electric magnets here so the guard doesn't come down. So I could do this faster. You see? And I can make more money. I put an electric magnet to make the piston that's coming down. Some people are good at this stuff, right? OSHA tried to make it, or people tried to make it illegal. I mean, a fine that you didn't watch it close enough to stop it. See? Now, if you had that in writing your company safety plan, have a job hazard analysis on that. It said, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. Joe got reprimanded, he got retrained, and he went back and he did it again. Then you'd probably have OSHA put some flat on. My point of view is, if you play the game with them, you'll be safer anyway. Now, per 29 CFR 1910-132, the employer shall assess the work site to determine what hazards are present. It doesn't say commercial, it doesn't say the intent to support. 29 CFR 132. And then shall determine what PPE, what hazards are present, and then what PPE would protect the affected workers from the hazard. Make sure that the employees are trained in using the PPE, make sure they're fit for the PPE, and then have a certificate certifying that this is a hazard assessment on this work site.
Yeah, and that blows me away. When I teach, last class I taught in August, I had probably 50 contractors in there, and I asked for a raise of hands. How many of you guys when you do, and we were just talking, this was a commercial class. So, I said, when you show up to your job site, how many of you fill out, a hazard assessment form and do a hazard assessment? 3 of us raised our hands, 3 contractors out of 50. And so
Right.
I launched
Right.
right. I, I diverted the class off the rails a little bit there because I'm like, come on, guys. I mean, this is a requirement. It's a requirement in the standard, and B, it's a requirement, obviously, of OSHA. And I'm like, you guys are losing on 2 fronts. You're going to end up, getting sued in court. It's crazy. And, if you're smart, you'll work your hazard assessment plan. That should be the first thing you do on any job site. It's going to help you build your scope of work and your ROM and everything else, especially on a commercial loss. I know I've recommended you to several contractors and consultants over the last few years because you go and you're an expert witness on a lot of things. It still blows me away, and this is a gap between contractors lack of knowledge sometimes it's consultants lack of knowledge, whereas the consultants sometimes want to push back on things like first aid stations. They want to push back on even porta johns and hand wash stations. And OSHA has formulas, for the hand wash and porta johns on workers. And, you've got to supply that kind of stuff. And then you got consultants that don't want to pay for it. And you got contractors that don't want to provide it. I mean, it blows my mind, you know?
Yeah, on the IICRC Standards Committee, I'm an expert witness in court in many cases. Working for insurance companies, busting with producer companies, the licensed fire investigator in state Texas and in Florida. So I can do background investigations. I can go on the job site and take all sorts of certificates and all that. But I also work for restoration companies I want clients to vote for them. I put my consultant. I tell it the way I see it. At IICRC, I have a reputation in many things, but the main thing is
Yep.
I pull up law. I taught at OSHA training school 14 years ago at USF, University of South Florida Training Institute. Give them the book, go out in the hall, and yell at it all at once. I didn't make it. I can't explain it. I can go through 1910, 1, 2, 3, all the we can do it, those potentially those plastic sets, and health hazards shall receive 4 hours of off-site training and pre-athletic. It doesn't say made in a good mood. It said all employees who are exposed to or potentially exposed to hazardous substances and levels, including typical biological agents, biological nuclear and energized explosives, shall receive 40 hours of task on training. If you don't like it, I don't. And they say, show me your JHA, your job hazard analysis, and kitchen was very serious. I don't have it. Fine. The guy's laughing. He's not laughing at your joke. He's thinking of something else to write down. Right? How many employees you have? Right. 10? No problem. Thanks for that. Now, show me your fall protection program. You guys have to do it tomorrow morning. Get your hands pumped quick. You don't have, that's fine. You'll let them meeting. Don't do this for me. Show me these things. Click yes, click no.
Yeah.
There's not any arguing with it. And that's how I feel about safety. Now, let's go on the positive side and the negative side. I teach large law marketing. I teach large law sales. Mike Atkins, his dad, Uncle Randy, just sold started for $1.3 billion. Came to my workshop last year and said, if you were still in business, you'd probably to $1 to $200 million. With NASA, playing with them too early. It's not fun. I said, it's fun with it. I love Baxter Mutual. They were my best client for 25 years. They brought me in on some of the nastiest stuff they ever had. Big fan. I had ASWAPers before ASWAPers was cool. I was teaching firemen in 1980s as these materials when nobody was looking at FDA. But having the hazardous waste operations literature response before it was you have the EPA superplant superplant and superplant side stuff. And OSHA got at 91. I was already teaching agency before 91. Okay? Now, by that, I could walk into any factory in a laws and look like it's big places. And then say, oh my God, we've got Harold at H2SO4 in the back. If at least Jim will help me to God. Oh, we've got has-been. Good. Only your MSG actually said that I'm almost breaking both of myself home. I'm not scared. All it is what do you got? What safety do I know? Well, do I have? It's gone. It's easy. But by doing that, is to bring me anywhere in the country while it losses. And I put that fun. And
Hey, Jim, you broke up on that last sentence. Can you repeat that again?
safety as marketing.
Much better.
I use safety as PR. I use safety as sales. Now, how do you use safety as marketing? I train firefighters in St. Louis about hazardous materials in the Army and other agencies. I awarded by the mayor of the city of St. Louis the key to the city for my efforts helping the city out. That's some of these awards are from the mayor of the city of St. Louis, etc. This is 1984. This is a long time ago, guys. You know? By that, I would tell my factory mutual adjuster buddies, I'm so scared to be up on the camera on the front on the news. Would you please come to my honor dinner by the mayor's office and hold my hand? If I was scared of the guys at the front table, they wouldn't be giving me an award because I work with these guys all the time. But then I have 6 regional adjusters from Africa. If you could do it, get up there, we're proud of you.
Yeah.
Next night, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma on a major loss. Going, Judge has got an award by the mayor. Now, let's go into current time. You walk into a job site and you cannot have hard hat, ears, eyes, respiratory, cold, too cold, too hot, hands. And they require it on that job site to have hard hat. You might get buttocks kicked off the job in 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, I've won a couple of jobs.
Because you guys didn't wear a freaking hard hat because they didn't know no better.
Yeah, I've won a couple of jobs in my time because I showed up, put on my safety vest, had on my steel toe boots, put on my hard hat, and walked in the building. And, the franchise guys, I'll just put it that way. I don't want to talk bad about anybody, because there are good ones and there are bad ones, but they showed up because it was an open, bid walkthrough, and they showed up in tennis shoes or shorts, and, they weren't allowed to get in the building, and so, this is the walkthrough, man. You didn't make the walkthrough, then you don't get the bid on the job, kind of a thing. And so I've won multiple jobs by being prepared, and knowing what kind of environment I'm going into. So, that's definitely very important to use that as a sales tool as well on the front end. And then obviously, talking about safety, reinforcing, like you had said last time we spoke, you ask them to see all their manuals and their guidelines and then show them yours, that way you kind of compare notes and they know that you're taking it serious because they definitely are taking it serious at their plans.
Let's look at risk management is in charge of insurance and major corporations. The normally finance people, they work for the CFO or the other chief finance officer. They have an awful lot of departments dealing with work comp, safety issues, slip, trip, and fall of customers, etc. So your risk manager is in charge of risk, probability and severity that hazard can cause harm. So you have somebody come into your environment that brings risk with them because they do not take advantage of precautions. Guess what? You just increase your liability, the potential for a hazard to cause harm. Now, on the other side of it, if I walk into a factory, and I've been many, many times for a lot of years, kind of so good, and say, what happened, when, and how big, how bad? Okay. Now, may I please have a copy of your company health and safety plan? Here's mine. May I have a copy of JHA? May I have a copy of the JSS? Here's ours. Now, before we unload the truck, I need to know where we're going to park.
Yep.
Where we're going to go to the restroom, where our breaks are going to be. Am I working 3 shifts or 1 shift? 7 days, 5 days, etc. Well, by the way, who is your safety professional here? Can I put them together with my safety professional and have them do a job hazard analysis before my guys walk in here, just to make sure everything's on the right feet? Well, guess what? About a half hour later, after I'm supposed to arrive, the risk manager calls from corporate office. and says, number one, did my guys get there? And then the next thing he will always say, Mike, is how do they look? Almost
Yeah.
goes basic, almost for dozens of years. They said, we kicked their ass out because they looked like a bunch of carpet cleaners. I'm never going to get that risk manager back. And the worse than that, they're going to tell their buddies. You see? Now, on the other side, from a positive standpoint, I walk in and say, I have a copy of this company's eligibility plan. Here's mine. May I have a copy of your SDS? Here's ours. May I have a copy of your fall protection program? Here's ours. By the way, here's a sheet of all of our crew chiefs. Here's their fiction. Here's their IICOC, triple blah, 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 their RIA, blah, 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 blah. Here's their OSHA, their fourth grade product, their food. Now, in my company, anyone who had trapezoid on their helmet, knowing trapezoid, they had a radio, and that meant that they could call in for help. They could call in for danger, evacuation, or the stolen, etc. So if you see anything you have a question for, look for a guy with the trapezoid on his helmet, and he can get you an answer in 5 minutes. You see? And that calmed the customer down in mind like the wood bleed, if you've seen it. You see? Now, how do I say that is sales? Why is that sales?
Well, it's sales because you're showing that you're actually looking out for safety of not only your people, but you're also you're taking it serious. And, B, they do not want to have any workplace stuff that's going to cost them money. Any kind of workplace accident is going to cost them money, cause them exposure, cause them shutdown time, all of those types of issues, and so, I think that's why I've won some bids in the past. It's probably why I've even lost some bids in the past, because I've showed up earlier in my career ill prepared, before I learned some of these things. I know that, especially when it comes to government stuff, I've done stuff with Army Corps engineers in my past and things like that, and military bases. Those guys, they're not messing around. A, they're going to make sure that you're adhering to the rules and have the capability and knowledge to adhere to their rules, or you're not getting on the job site. But B, they want to make sure that you're taking things as serious as they do, and I've done some chemical plants before and some aluminum plants. And those guys, they run 24/7, 365. They do not want anything that you're going to cause that's going to cause them to shut down and potentially lose millions. They take all that serious.
To say 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock every morning, the first morning after we get there, we'll always, always, always have the plant manager or store manager show up. Religiously. Why? They've had the worst day of their life. They had a very bad day when their plant burned down or their shopping mall, tornado, whatever. They go home after a horrible day. They take a shower. The smoke smell comes out of their hair. First thing they do when they hit the doors, have a strong drink, maybe 2 or 3. They have a shower. They lie down. They can't sleep. They're looking at the staring at the ceiling until about midnight. They say, to hell with it. This is my facility, my home. They put on their blue jeans, come in a back door that you'll never know is there. So come in and say, oh, I always forgot something in my office. They're coming to see if you guys are sitting there smoking dope on the back loading dock having a beer, or if you're doing like, bring it in, Charlie, okay, get this lift over here. Okay, get them over here. Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it? Now, I don't tell guys that anymore. Just like my office and other offices. Everyone's got their office on phones now. 24/7. They got them on their iPads. They wake up in the middle of the night, or they don't go to sleep. They look down and say, okay, what are these guys doing at the loading dock? You see? You won't even see them anymore, which goes back to more safety. Now, let's go into the positive side. Marketing. Many people in restoration think marketing is have a pretty girl drop off sketch pads at agents' offices and hand checks to plumbers. That's right. Public relations is a totally professional, entire industry. Different than marketing. Marketing is totally different than sales. Public relations is how does the environment think about my company? How do we think about them? How are we perceived? Bad and good. It's bad. Marketing is, hi, call me now. Creating one. And sales to me is nothing more than getting that strong contract. There are 3 different steps. Most people think it's all one. Oh, I'll just send Sally out. We'll get more, whatever. One of my good buddies, Sean Folks, I met him like 12, 13 years ago when he had guaranteed. His dad, Chunky Folks, had a carpeting business for 20-some years in Baton Rouge, a very respectable company, et cetera. And they handled more smaller losses. He hired me to come in as a business consultant for a couple of days. I did. In the next few years, he just skyrocketed out of the top.
Yep.
He calls me up one time and says, Jim, I've got 25 school districts that are underwater. I'm in a John boat with the risk manager like you recommended. I said, how big of deposit, not deposit, but how big an advance did you get? He goes, I've got a $3 million a check in my pocket right now. Pretty good. What exactly did you say, buddy? You know? Then after that, reading from the back of my book.
Yeah, we did 24 schools for him during that storm. He had a lot of schools that were affected.
We did 42 schools with a price tag of $65 million. In 2021, we did over 150 schools with a price tag of $150 million. So the $150 million, you know, I'm one of your biggest fans.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, with that being the case, my former operations manager, who worked for someone else after I ran away to NASA, goes down there as part of his group and talks to him and says, what really changed? He says, what changed? He worked with Jim Thompson. I got out of the carpet cleaning, the small home, and I started to go with risk managers, with people that had 1,000 properties or 50 properties or 500 properties. You see? And by talking business with them, we were able to then jump into this bigger league and bigger league. Now I'm on Facebook with him. He's got a great public relations team. They do all sorts of that. He's got a great marketing team.
Oh, he's got the funniest videos there are in our industry, too.
You know what I'm saying? So he has transformed over, basically following just a roadmap that I laid out for his company. He did the work. I didn't. But other guys I worked with, Dave Heitman, Bill and Matt Jarvis, et cetera, they're not going to retire because they're grown up, et cetera.
Yep.
If the work is out there, Mike, I don't care how slow the industry is, somebody's burning a factory down. Someone's got sprinkled water pipes. Bubba is taking that forklift to that 42-foot high ceiling that's only 40 feet high and takes a sprinkler arm with it, you know? So
Yep.
that stuff is